everyone, I'm JD from Willowbound Journals, and today's video is a tutorial process video showing how I make the cover and the larger pages of this journal. I'm using 6x6 papers, which can be a bit of an awkward size for us junk journalists to use, but I had this large envelope that when I folded it in half, I wasn't sure exactly how to decorate it and use it because it was quite a different size that I'm used to, more of a square, wide size. And I thought this paper pad was perfect to decorate the covers and make some pages for it. So that's what it looks like. I've already got a flip through of a previous envelope journal that I'd made. And now I wanted to make a second one because it was just so fun doing that. And the other one, though, I didn't use 6x6 paper. So this time I gave myself the challenge to use some of these papers here. And this is actually a video request for the giveaway video. So just a reminder, this is the last day that you can enter the giveaway, where there are 2 journals and one of my printable kits up for grabs. So feel free to check that out if you haven't entered so far. And you just enter by leaving a video request and asking me a question. And I also need to remind you that this is the last day of the giveaway Etsy sale of all journals, journal kits and printable kits in my shop Willowbound Journals. So just check the description box below for all the links and information down there. And I'm having fun, making videos for these video requests. I'm now making my way through them. So exciting. I'll give you a bit of a sneak peek or heads up of what's coming up later on with that. And I also have a members video that I just put up last night showing more of the process making one of these envelope journals. Okay, so first of all, you saw me pick out these 2 covers with the sort of maps, the world maps, and I love the vintage vibe to them because I am going to be making a vintage travel journal out of this particular envelope. And then I had another 6x6 paper where I just cut out a little strip, and I cut out the part of the paper that had this sort of drawing of Australia because I thought that worked well with the travel map theme on the cover. And then I'm just using a Bostik glue stick to stick that down along the spine of the envelope. The envelope I actually got through one of the mystery packs that I bought for the Beyond Blue fundraising event, I'm not sure what to call it, that I am doing this year. And the 6x6 papers also came in one of the mystery packs that I purchased. And so I'm just going to stick that on top of the front cover, and then I'll glue down the other side of the envelope and a bit down the strip, down that middle strip, and glue that on the other side. So I'm just going to have the same 2 images, the same 2 paper designs on the front and back. So the envelope I just folded in half, and so simple. I make a lot of my journals with envelopes, either large ones or small ones, simply by folding them in half, and then you can decorate them however you want. You can use scrapbook paper, wallpaper, you can use book pages, decorative paper, you can collage on top of them. I've done a few where I ripped up some vintage music paper and vintage book pages and then collaged that over the top. I then sometimes add tissue paper over the top of that, or pattern paper as well, or you can add napkin over the top of your collage. So there's so many different ways you can decorate your covers. But here's a great way to use up, your 6x6 papers. I have made collage together some 6x6 papers as well, or sewn 6x6 papers together to make these envelope journals with the standard size envelope. So if you don't have, an envelope this size, you can just use the normal envelopes that you get from the post office or stationery shops, fold them in half, and then use whatever you've got to cover them up and decorate them. So I folded it in half just so I knew where the fold was, and the papers kind of move, so I just fold it, open it up, fold it, open it up, and let the papers settle into their positions. And now I'm just trimming off the excess around the edges, and then I will be taking it over to my sewing machine later on. So if you're wondering about the glue, I get lots of questions about how I glue things and stick things down. I am just using the Bostik glue stick for this rather than something thicker like a wet glue, like craft glue or fabric glue or something like that, just because it's easier to go through my sewing machine if I use the Bostik glue stick, and I can get like an even layer across the whole covers to stick those down. I definitely could use craft glue. Sometimes when I run out of my glue stick, I will go ahead and use craft glue. You could definitely use something like PVA or whatever you have. Use whatever glue you have. I just have to be mindful if I'm using something thicker to thin it out so that it can go through my sewing machine. Otherwise, the needle will get stuck and maybe break depending on how thick you've got that glue. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to just grab some of this washi tape, sort of that vintage vibe to it, and I'm just going to stick that right down the middle of the cover, and that's just going to add a bit more decoration to that part of the journal where the papers don't quite reach. Of course, you could use another strip of scrapbook paper, but I don't want that hinge to get too thick. Like, we've already got 2 layers of envelope, and then we've got a layer of scrapbook paper, which scrapbook paper is quite thick. So I just want to put something a bit thinner there just to cover that up. You could also have inked that, maybe get some distress ink and ink that area if you want. Get some ribbon or get some fabric, that's also another idea. But yeah, I just love using the washi tape method and just doing the same thing for these covers now, using my Bostik glue stick to apply the glue. And then I'll add these lovely vintage sort of map papers again for the inside pages. So I'll just place one there. A little tip, I kind of don't worry too much about lining up the edges because I will just trim those off anyway. So I kind of just match them up in the middle, and that way I trim off the excess at the top and the bottom and a little bit at the side. This one I have to be a bit more precise because there's that open edge, and I do want to keep that edge open so that I can slip something into that large pocket in that colour. So I'm going to leave that flap there, the envelope flap, as is, and then I want to make sure the glue is applied right to the very edge of that opening and really make sure that's all stuck down there because I won't be adding sewing there. And then that is what it looks like now with the 2 covers on the inside, and I will grab my scissors and trim off the excess. In terms of the flap, you don't see me do it in this video, I do it off camera, but to cover up the white of the flap, you could definitely use some more scrapbook paper or whatever material you're using. You could add a bit of lace or some ribbon. All I do though is super easy. I get some of my Tim Holtz distress ink in I think vintage photo or walnut stain or whatever colour that you want, and I just get my blending tool and add the distress ink all over the outside of the flap and the inside of the flap. I also go around the edges, every edge of the cover, inside, outside, the middle folds, and I add distress ink to all the edges as well, just because of that vintage vibe. It kind of finishes the scrapbook paper, gives it more of a, I don't know, polished, finished look to it, and gives it a quality that just heightens it, takes it to the next level, that kind of thing. You definitely don't need to do that if you don't have distress ink. Even if you do have distress ink, you don't have to do that. But yeah, I just liked how that looks. Now, moving on to the pages. So I don't do too many just because it is, scrapbook paper. It tends to be a bit thicker than normal paper, and I don't want the signature to be too thick. Otherwise, it's really hard to bind and turn the pages and fill up and all that kind of thing. So I'm just going to do two scrapbook pages for this journal. And that's going to give me some structure as well, some backbone to, have the other pages fit into. So when I fold my other pages, my A4 standard size pages, they don't reach to the edge of the journal because this envelope is very, very wide. So having these 6x6 papers, it just gives it some structure for the cover to fold around and for the rest of the pages to sit within, if that makes any sense. So it's multi-purpose, it's decorative, but also helps give the journal some structure. Not that it needs it. You could definitely, I've made other journals in this style where I only use smaller papers like the standard size A4 paper and thinner paper and just the normal variety of junk journal papers without using these larger 6x6 papers, and it works totally fine too. You do have a little bit of a gap at the edge, but it's kind of nice to have a journal that looks a bit different. So what I'm going to do is use the rest of this scrapbook paper, and I just trim it into 2 strips, and those are going to be the hinges for my scrapbook pages. Now this is also a little handy tip for attaching 2 pages, whatever they are. Sometimes I get questions about how do you attach 2 book pages together that have been separated, or any papers. Like you could have any, I'm trying to think of any other types of papers. Your scrapbook papers is the thing that comes to mind, and the book pages, maybe you've got some music paper, whatever pages you have, if they're not big enough to fold in half so that you have 2 nice sized pages, you can use as a hinge. This time I am going to be using my craft glue because I just want to make sure that's really strongly attached, because we're going to fold that, they're going to move a little bit to have a little gap in between to make room for each other. And I could have trimmed that down to the size of the cover. And that was actually my original plan with the previous journal, but I forgot. And so when I sewed it, I was like, oh, I totally forgot to trim those down to fit inside the cover. But when I put it all together, I really liked the layered look with the 6x6 papers poking out the top. Again, it kind of gave the journal extra structure and filled it out. And I like that kind of layered look. I actually want to do that with some journals that I make. And it just so happened that I naturally did it for this journal and really, really liked the look. So I made it so it pokes a bit out the top and the bottom of the cover. You could definitely make it so it pokes out more at the top or only at the bottom. But I liked it going right through the middle, so it gave the whole cover and pages inside that structure. So anyway, now I'm going to use my Bostik glue stick because I'm going to sew all around the edges. And I didn't put the wet glue all the way across that strip, only to catch it so that the 2 pages are in position. But now I've left a little bit of a gap so I can put some glue underneath that flap and all around the edges. And I'm not going all the way to the edges of the paper because I know I'll be sewing around those edges. And then I just slot that other scrapbook paper into it underneath that flap, if that makes sense. So again, you don't really have to do that. You could match it up because I'm going to sew down that edge anyway, but that's just going to prevent any like little white gap peeking through. And I know for me, it just gives it extra structure as well. It's like definitely sturdy. It's not going to come apart. It's not going to separate. I don't have to worry about keeping it perfectly in place because it's going to hold it there for me if I overlap it just a little. And yeah, just going to do this to the other side. You can see me holding up that flap so I can access it with the glue stick. Then going to cover the rest of the inside cover here. And I didn't have matching papers, but that's okay for the inside of this journal. I've got all different types of papers here. Well, some I think matched and some didn't, and I just chose ones that I thought went well together. And so I'm just going to line it up, slot it in underneath that flap, line it up, and this time the only part of the page that I need to cut off is at the edge. So you can see that there. We'll trim off that excess, and now I have my page, my own page made up of beautiful scrapbook papers. Again, off camera, I take that to my sewing machine and I sew all around the edges and at the point where it overlaps. And then I do go ahead with my distress ink and cover up that bit of white in the middle. So now just showing you here, there's the cover, there's one of the pages, and I will repeat this process again just to show you again how I do it. And if you're following along at home, hope this gives you lots of little tips about how to use 6x6 papers and how to also attach them together. Really, really fun. while I've got this little lull here, let me just chat about some upcoming video requests. So this is the first one that I'm putting up on my channel from that giveaway video. I also have a request that I've already filmed to use more Daphne's Diary. I got a lot of requests actually to show projects using Daphne's Diary, so I filmed a whole start to finish video making a journal, and I was really impressed. I did it in half an hour. So I was thinking it was going to take me forever and then I might have to edit it and, you know, skip some pieces. But no, I did it all in real time and chatted the whole way through in real time and did it in half an hour. So I really hope that video shows how simple it is to make a journal. I got a request to show ideas of using Daphne's Diary journals in other ways, the magazine. So that forced me to sort of go out of my comfort zone, and I made some pockets and envelopes using the pages. So that is a video coming up as well. I've already filmed that. I am now currently also working on a video request to show ways to use napkins. Literally on my desk right in front of me as I do this voiceover, there are napkin projects on my desk. So if I finish it in time, hopefully I'll be able to film that today, or if not today, next week. So that one's coming up. And then I'm also in the process of filming member videos as well, so members can put in video requests. And so I filmed 2 videos for that so far. One is already up, like I said, showing some more of my process making one of these envelope journals. I've already filmed a video for my members that will be coming up showing some vintage French letters that I got from France and how I'm going through those, organising them, sorting them and choosing some for some vintage French journals. And for these journals as well, I was also choosing some letters to go into these vintage journals. And coming up, I will be filming a start to finish Daphne's Diary journal as well for my members. Since I realised how quick I could do it in half an hour, I was like, let's go ahead and make another one for my members as well. So there's some of the projects coming up both on my channel and also for my members of my channel. If you don't know how to become a member, there is a join button under my videos, and it just takes you to a quick sign up page, and then you get access to member videos right here on my channel. And there is a welcome video to my members on the members tab. So if you already are a member, check the members tab just once a week or whatever, and that's where all the videos will pop up. You just scroll down for members, and the very first video was a welcome video, where you can, on that video, reply or comment with your video requests. So that is a fun thing too. Coming back to this process here, you saw me fold that last strip of paper, scrapbook paper, to make the hinge, and then I have glued on one set of papers, and now just going underneath the flap here with the glue stick so that I can slot in the other piece of paper. And then at the end of this video, I do show you what they look like with all of the sewing. So yeah, I chose these papers because I thought I didn't have any other like map pages or travel pages, but I thought these were kind of cool. It kind of can represent the different animals, flowers, and butterflies that you find over the world and anything like vintage as well. It's kind of fun. So again, just trimming down those edges, you can see where it's separated down the center of the spine there, down that hinge, there's a little white gap. So again, I will go across that with some distress ink to cover that up. And then yeah, I will just bind those straight into my journal, and I will go ahead and take these, the cover and the pages, to my sewing machine, and you'll see that in just a little bit here. There we go. Okay, so here's what the cover looks like, stitched all around the edges and down where all the pieces connect. And here are my beautiful pages for the journal. Look at those, aren't they great? Yeah, love, love, love. So later on I'll add all the distress ink, but look at them, aren't they cool? So I hope this gives you some ideas and inspiration to make your own 6x6 papers, or join whatever papers that you have. And then they just go through there and look at the layers, a bit poking at the top, a bit poking at the bottom, gives it some structure and looks really cool with those layers. And while I was off camera, I also made a couple more. So this is another cover that I made. Really cool vintage looking cover. And then I also made one more, and this is more of a vintage sewing or vintage pattern journal. So I am excited. I have already actually made those up, and we'll do flip throughs of those later on my channel. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys.